Hi everyone, I've done my research on preventing epidemics within the homeless community, and the problem is that there are programs that exist to help homeless, but these programs rarely cover every individual and sometimes exclude either by gender, um, if they're family or an individual, like for shelters. Um, I know there's some shelters like Operation Hope. They take in families and single women. They do not take in single men. Some shelters just take ladies. Some shelters just take men. Just excluding. And then there's employment programs, extended education programs, um, childcare, Medi-Cal, and all of that good stuff that helps them. And I'm starting with a platform of nonprofit charities, food and living assistance. So here we have Brother Benos, and they offer low income families and even single individuals services that help them meet their daily needs. And they started off just as a food assistance, kind of like a food pantry, and giving meals for breakfast, and then they would give them a sack lunch for the day. But now they've seen how the homeless community has increased over the years, and they decided to extend their services. They have access to things like showers, and by they I mean the homeless. A sanitary place to brush their teeth. They provide them daily meals, so it is breakfast and lunch. They do not do dinner. I think for the holidays they do dinner. Um, and then they also have additional resources to where either they refer them to or they have centers that help them with employment and education, and they also have a thrift store. So that is a great thing for them. It serves as a great platform for this issue of, homeless being on the street as they try to encourage them and help them move forward. However, it is not giving them housing, of course. So now we're going to the nonprofit charities of food and living assistance, where this is both offered at Operation Hope Vista. I used to work here, and it is a shelter. They serve families with children and single women, like I said, and their goal is to, help them rebuild their lives with income, and it's a 60-day to 90-day program, and their main goal is housing. So everything they do and all of their goals there is basically to get them to housing. Um, and like I said, they do not take in men, so this is kind of harmful and to the men, because I remember when they would call in and looking for shelter, we had to turn them down, and other shelters that take in individuals, um, specifically for men, were booked. So then again, we are just putting them out on the streets again. And looking into Hep A for the homeless community, we look at their living conditions, public restrooms, where they get their food from, things like this is where we can look at to where they get their food at, specifically. If it's come in contact with somebody who has Hep A, if they've located it from inside of the trash can. And these are things that carries on into another individual, simply as touching doorknobs, as we have this little health warning little tip box right here, and it's like from sharing needles for the homeless that do drugs. And I read an interesting article, and there was a judge by the name David Carter, and this is by the Santa Ana River. They have like tents set up, and it's just nothing but it's just trash built up. There's feces everywhere. There's just germs that are collecting in a pile, and the city wanted to clean up that area, so they basically evicted them. And to solve that, um, to solve the fact that they're getting, this is their home, this tent is their home, the judge offered them a bed shelter, a month-long voucher, and even offered them drug treatments and job trainings, and even offered for their pets to stay in animal shelters until they worked towards that stability. So I think this serves as a really good platform that the judge was looking into. Okay, if we kick them out, then this is their plan A, B, and C, to at least encourage them to move on forward. And then we have the mental health. For those of you who don't know, mental health is really big in the homeless community just because of all of the trauma they go through, the untreated trauma, and it just exceeds from like them suffering from violence, them suffering from getting beat up, just being alone. So Exodus plays as a platform for this, as they offer treatment, medical assistance for the treatment, and financial waivers for their medication if they cannot afford it. And then I wanted to look into the housing for mental health, which is, for those of you who vote, it is Prop 2, and this is to help mental health get services and financial help for housings. And I think it's really good, because it's like we're sending them to get all these mental assessments and therapeutic interventions, but we're sending them back on the streets, so that's kind of not helping them, and then they just go back to square one. And then I wanted to look into the platform of HUD, which plays as a housing, which is called the Housing and Urban Development, which is providing, vouchers, permanent housing, and Section 8. Because of the high cost of living in California, the demand for HUD is really big in the homeless community, and even in the low incomes. It's just very difficult. So there's requirements that they have to meet, and most of them don't meet those requirements, or you have to score. I know from working in the shelter, you have to score a certain number within the rapid rehousing, and if they don't get that, then it's just like, what now? They're working a minimum paying job, they're in a shelter, and then they end up getting kicked out of the shelter because of the extended stay, and they've meet their max stay. So I think the main ideas, looking at platforms for preventing epidemics within the homeless community, is mainly the programs and the nonprofits, where they get their food, clothing, and just basic needs, to find out how we can create this safe and clean environment, and as well as finding the gaps where the homeless are suffering from being turned away. I think we really need to look in from the inner into the out. And it's just important that I think that everybody contributes, just as these nonprofits come together and serve. I think it's good to see how we can get the whole contamination and the outbreaks in control. So that's it for my presentation. Here's my work sites if you would like to see, and thank you.